Welcome to Virtually Maker Faire, 24 hours of broadcasts from makers all over the globe. It is so exciting to be here. You can find the complete schedule at makerfaire.com.
Hi, my name is Steven.
My name is Fritz, and we are experts at doing stupid things. I spent 20 years working as a professional juggler.
But I spent 20 years as a trial lawyer.
I think you win on that front. We're going to kick things off today with a look at our creative process and how we're trying to use that in addressing the challenges that we're facing in today's world. But this is really for everyone, because there's a misconception that there are two kinds of people. There are creative people and the rest of us. And in our experience, that's just not true. Creativity is for everyone. This process that we'll look at is for everyone. It's not just for artists or writers. It's for everyone who wants to be creative, whatever it is that you do.
To start off, we're going to talk about how we went from being a juggler and a lawyer to being internet stars. That's right, from winning gold medals at the International Jugglers Association competitions and trying complex cases in federal and state courts in Boston to having work that's right up there with I Can Has Cheeseburger. Fritz and I first met back in 2000. We were both studying physical theater, and we realized we both had a common curiosity for exploring everyday objects and the unusual things they could do. One of the things Fritz was working on then was a contortion act, putting his entire body through a wire coat hanger. And one of the things I was working on was playing Stars and Stripes Forever on glasses of water.
So if we fast forward to 2005, Stephen came to visit me up at my house in Buckfield, Maine. And he said, have you heard something is supposed to happen when you drop Mentos mint candies into a bottle of Diet Coke? I said, okay, well, let's give it a try. So like a lot of you have probably done, like I hope every single one of you has done, we went out into the backyard, we gave it a try, dropped that handful of Mentos into a bottle of Coke, and went, oh, that's cool. Let's get more. And so that, oh my gosh. So then it was 600 bottles of soda and about 6 months later that we made a video.
Yes, we did. We put it online on our brand new website, eepybird.com, on a Saturday morning in June. And we told one person. So that afternoon I go to Fritz and I say, Fritz, how many views do you think we have?
And I was feeling frisky. So I was like, oh, maybe it's 400.
4,000. By the end of the day, it was over 14,000 and just exploding.
Now, Stephen and I were both going to be gone for a while after that, for a couple of weeks. So we asked our friend Jason if we could put his name and phone number on our website, just in case the Letterman show called. Well, 48 hours after the video went up, we put it on Saturday morning. Monday morning, 48 hours later, Jason calls me and he says, you know how you asked if you could put my name and phone number on your website just in case Letterman called? Yeah, Letterman called. That was Monday morning. Tuesday morning, the Conan O'Brien show called. Wednesday, we were on All Things Considered on NPR. Thursday, we got an email from the folks who built the Bellagio fountains in Las Vegas, one of our big inspirations for the video. And that was just the beginning of this crazy ride that now, 14 years later, has taken us all over the world, brought us to Maker Fairs, and right here to Virtually Maker Faire today.
So we want to talk today about what happened between that one bottle out in the yard and 100 bottles on Letterman. What's our creative process? From those first Coke and Mentos experiments to turning 250,000 sticky notes into paper waterfalls, to harnessing the power of Coke and Mentos to propel a Coke and Mentos rocket car, there's a method to our madness and a process that we've used time and again, and that you can use to be creative in whatever you're doing. We call it 1, 10, 100. And these are our 3 stages of developing an idea. So the first is experiment 1. That's just that raw idea that gets into your brain and you want to explore further. So for our first video, that was just dropping Mentos in a bottle of Coke. We saw that and we're like, wow, we got to figure this out. And from there, you want to take it to what we call experiment 10, which is the first proof of concept for the idea. And the final objective is experiment 100, the fully developed idea, something that can be unforgettable.
For us, the key to this process is don't try to be brilliant. We use this kind of scientific terminology of taking it forward one step at a time to emphasize that this is a methodical process. There's no genius involved, because when it comes down to it, we don't believe in genius. We believe in hard work. We don't come into the Eepy Bird laboratory in the morning saying, today we are going to change the world with our genius ideas. We don't know how to do that. What we do is we come in and say, today we're going to try to take things one step forward, from say experiment 12 to experiment 13. And once you then get to that experiment 100, that's when people see something brilliant, see that genius, because they don't perceive all of the methodical steps that you went through to get there.
Yeah, the myth of creativity is that you go from 1 to 100 with a bolt of inspiration. We've never seen it. What we have seen, and what we can do, and what you can do, is go one step at a time and find creativity through the process. So let's break down how we get from 1 to 10 to 100. Experiment 1 is that raw idea that catches your interest. It gives you something you want to explore. So if you're a writer, it could be that snippet of conversation you overheard in the diner at breakfast the other day that gives you a feeling there might be something of a story there. If you're a trial lawyer, like I was for 20 years, it could be that one unusual fact or anecdote around which you might later be able to build your entire case. Experiment 1 can be as simple as something like this, just a paper airplane. If that piques your interest, that's an experiment 1. That's something you could really explore, and you could find something really, really cool. For us, finding new experiment 1s is all about exploring every possibility in ordinary objects. So we just play with them. We want to generate all sorts of raw ideas. It's not about starting with something brilliant. It's just about starting with something that interests you. So when we first wanted to move beyond Cocomentos and sort of out of the kitchen, we needed a new experiment 1. So we took our team of 6 or 7 people to Office Max, and we spent hours, a few hours, roaming up and down the aisles, looking at everything on the shelves, and how we had little clipboards. We were taking notes and talking to each other and comparing our notes. And of course, we didn't realize it, but freaking out the Office Max employees.
Yeah, one of them finally came up to us and asked, "Are you guys from headquarters? Are we being audited here?" Well, we reassured them that we were just makers, and we left there with a carload full of stuff to experiment with. We didn't know where it was going to take us, but we had this car full of stuff. And one of the things that really intrigued us were these zigzag pads of sticky notes that are made for pop-up dispensers. They're made to zigzag like this, and we had no idea if we would find anything with them, but they just piqued our curiosity, so we started to play. Now, one of the first ideas was it seemed like this zigzag, it seemed like it might flow like a slinky. But as you can see, it kind of catches and doesn't quite work. Well, for days, we tried everything we could think of. We made sculptures, we made little puppets, we did everything we could think of, and we kept coming back to this slinky idea. Well, after 3 days of experimenting, it finally occurred to us to try this. Rotating it 90 degrees like that was the key. That was our experiment 1. So we had that thing that tickled us. We had that thing that went, this is fun. This is cool. We've got to see how we can take this further. So that was our experiment 1. Well, what comes next? Experiment 2. So let's look at how we go from 1 to 2 to 3, all the way up to 10.
Our key tool for doing that is variation. How many twists in your experiment 1 can you find? Again, it's not about being brilliant. It's simply about asking, how many variations are there can you come up with for that first raw idea? Now, we're not looking for quality. We're not looking for the best idea. We're looking for quantity. The time for assessing quality is later. Now you simply want to generate as many ideas, good, bad, and everywhere in between, as you possibly can. So for Coke and Mentos, great, the soda shoots out the mouth of the bottle. But what else can it do? Can we split the geyser in two? What happens when you poke holes in the bottles? What about swinging the bottles on ropes? Well, we tried all of those things. What we ended up with were these nozzles. These shape the soda spray, and the spray comes out each hole in each of these nozzles. So the first one has a 1/4-inch hole that sends a geyser straight up in the air as high as 30 feet. And the next one with a black stripe on it has a 1/2-inch hole. And that gives us a shorter, thicker, more powerful geyser. And this one with the orange stripe has 3 different holes, and it creates a huge fan of soda spray. Of all the ones we tried, we ended up with about a dozen different effects. Here's an experiment 2 with paper airplanes, a variation. We just added some color to one wing, and we curled up one wing and curled down the other wing. And I'm not sure you can see in the small space, but what that does is it makes the airplane flies like a corkscrew. So what you want to do is find as many variations like that: the corkscrew airplane, the boomerang, one that leaves a trail of confetti, as many different variations on a simple paper airplane or whatever your idea is as you can possibly come up with.
With sticky notes, it took us a long time to find enough variations. We'd been working nights and weekends in between everything else for about 3 months on this. And I was on the phone with a friend of mine, just idly fiddling with a pad of sticky notes. And I finally said, wait a minute, hang on, sorry, I gotta call you back. What if we take a few sticky notes as part of a pad, and we stick one end of this chain to the other end? It makes a wheel, but it's not strong, so it won't roll. But before, we rotated the sticky notes 90 degrees, and then they would flow like a slinky. So what does it mean to rotate these sticky notes 90 degrees? Well, it means that we take the middle and pop it out like that. And that rotation makes the wheel strong. Now it's strong, and now it will roll. And that variation was key for us, because that exploration brought us to the next benchmark. The next benchmark is experiment 10. Experiment 10 is that rough sketch, the first proof of concept for a finished product. So it's a prototype that you can test out in the field. It's that first mask. It's that first piece of PPE that you can test, that you can go, get it out there and see how it's working. For us, coming up with an experiment 10 is finding something that has the right shape. So we go back and we look at our earlier experiments, and we choose from those variations and combine them into something that has the right shape: a beginning, a middle, and an end. For an engineer, experiment 10, it's that first prototype that's held together by hope and duct tape. But for a writer, it's a first draft of a short story based on that overheard snippet of conversation. Maybe eventually, maybe someday, it will be that novel, that screenplay. But at first, this is just the duct tape version to get things started. I'd like to show you a video now that very few people have seen. This is our experiment 10 with Coke and Mentos. And this is definitely the duct tape version. We did this as part of the early evening show, a live variety performance that we do up here in Maine on the first Saturday of every month. Let's take a look. Okay, we are about to do something we've never done before. We are going to try to shoot 10 bottles of Diet Coke, 10 2-liter bottles of Diet Coke into the air using over 60 Mentos. Are you ready? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Still going. That.
Well, I'd say that worked pretty well. I hope you enjoyed it. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Prince.
That experiment 10 was shot just 24 hours after our first experiments with Coke and Mentos. You want to make it quickly like that. Remember, it's just the duct tape version. You want to get out of your head and up on its feet as fast as you can. You want to stop planning and thinking as soon as you can and start building. So right now, for example, we've been working with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for the last year or 2 or 3 on developing methods to help nonprofits use viral video to spread their messages. And as part of that work, we're now working on a test project with National 4-H, and we're helping them develop a video of a Rube Goldberg machine that would highlight the wide variety of things 4-Hers can learn. Everything these days from traditional cows and plows, farm skills to 21st century robotics and using drones to create detailed maps of farmland for crop planting. The plan was to build a giant Rube Goldberg machine in a barn or in a high school gymnasium and shoot a video with a bunch of 4-H kids and maybe building and maybe be part of the machine. We weren't sure. And then COVID-19 hit and changed everything. Everything came to a halt. We can't be gathering kids together in an enclosed space for hours at a time. And we can't even gather ourselves in the studio to work on stuff the way we had before the pandemic. So we began to wonder, could we do a virtual Rube Goldberg machine? Can we make a machine that goes from one Zoom window to another? Would that even work? Would anyone care? Would it be fun? We don't know. But it's an interesting idea, so we're building quickly as we can an experiment 10 just for ourselves. And we've asked half a dozen or so of our friends to build a single Rube Goldberg module. And we've mailed some stuff for people to work with. And everyone's going to start their module with a ball bouncing in from the left, and it will end with a ball bouncing out to the right. And they'll shoot their videos, send us their modules, and we'll try and put that together into a single edit of a virtual machine. Will that work? We don't know. We'll have to see. And that's what experiment 10s are all about. Getting your germ of an idea up and on its feet. And what you learn from that, what works and what doesn't work, tells you where you need to go next.
With live performance, the world of live performance has just been decimated by the coronavirus. With nobody able to gather together, we can't perform for a live crowd. So for the early evening show, this live variety show that Coke and Mentos sprang from, we are now trying the virtual early evening show that's going to be starting up on the first Saturday of every month. Again, we did our first experiment with that. We got it out, we got it up on its feet, and now we're making those improvements, coming up with new variations, coming up with new improvements, new ways of doing it. We are also exploring at Celebration Barn Theater, where Stephen and I first met. We're exploring how we can even still do live performance. We're going to be doing some experiments with drive-in shows, with drive-through shows, where we sort of meld together the idea of a car wash with puppet shows and juggling and storytelling that happens around the car, so you don't even have to get out of your car to have that live interaction with performers. So those are our experiment 10s right now to get the ball rolling and see where we can take this.
To reach experiment 10, you need to start understanding the variables of whatever it is you're working with. So with sticky notes, that meant what color combinations look good together. There's a zillion different colors. How tall can we build a sticky note waterfall before it just starts to fall apart? How fast can a waterfall change from color to color to color before the color change is too fast for the eye to perceive? All those things we had to figure out. And one of the sticky note variables was that turns out different colored pads flow at different speeds. So the yellow flows faster than the purple, which flows faster than the green, which flows faster than the orange, which sucks when you're trying to coordinate and synchronize waterfalls for a piece. And without that basic tool of choreography to time them, we couldn't get to our experiment 10. But once we identified the variable, once we knew that they were variable by color to color to color, we could start to get a solution.
This is synchronizing tape. You may know it as tape. We call it synchronizing tape. Now, lining up a row of pads like this, side by side, and then running a piece of synchronizing tape across the top. This is the key to our experiment 10, because this synchronizing tape means that as we build larger and larger bricks of sticky notes, as we add more and more layers of pads, every time it comes to a piece of synchronizing tape, everything has to flow together. That was the key to our experiment 10, because it allowed us to do this. So that is about 6,000 sticky notes. Well, our experiment 100, the final video, involved over 250,000 sticky notes.
So here we are. You've got your experiment 10. You have your rough sketch. And this is where you can fall into a trap. You think you're done. You're not done. Experiment 10 is just the beginning, not the end. People really liked our experiment 10 with Coke and Mentos, and at the theater came up to us and started saying, you got to put that online. That was great. But if we'd stopped at experiment 10, Coke and Mentos would never have become the phenomenon that it did. So don't think you're done at your experiment 10 or 20 or 30. Keep going. Take it all the way to experiment 100, the ultimate goal where your work becomes something that's unforgettable.
One of our big projects a few years ago was the Coke and Mentos rocket car, where we took all of that Coke and Mentos power and strapped it onto a rocket car. And it was a big success eventually. It got us on Letterman and featured in People magazine, all kinds of fun stuff. But let's take a look at where those rocket car experiments started.
We're rolling.
Ready, and pull, release.
Rocks the house. The house.
Oh yeah.
Rocks the house. The house. The house.
Yeah.
Release.
That was pretty awesome.
Not bad.
Okay, that's clearly further than the last time. Rocks the house. The house. The house. Rocks the house. The house. The house. Rocks the house. The house. The house. Rocks the house.
why did we not give up? Why did we keep going on that? Well, because every step of the way we were learning something. With none of those failures were failures because we learned something every step. Let's take a look at where those rocket car experiments ended up.
Do me a favor, turn on the camera out there on 53rd Street. Oh, look at these guys right there. This is what I'm so excited about, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I get to ride the rocket car. All right, here we go, gentlemen. No, I don't think I need the helmet. It'll mess up my toupee.
Okay.
Is everybody ready? What do I do? I just get up
there.
there.
Sit on.
Okay.
You got pegs right there that you can put your feet back onto.
If you can reach.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Now, you know your front tire is nearly flat.
Yep.
Is
That's
that
your
a
safety,
problem?
Dave.
Your brake is right here.
Uh-huh.
And you may need
And when
it.
in doubt, you can just put your feet down.
Okay.
Make sure that you don't go into traffic.
All right. Well, I'm shooting for the Hudson. I'll see you losers in New Jersey. All right. Count me down and let's go.
All
Let's
right.
fly this. Here we go.
Ready,
Thank
Steven?
Ready.
Ready, Dave? Ready, Matt? 3, 2, 1, pull. Release!
Like a rhinestone cowboy, riding on a horse in a star-spangled rodeo. Hello, everyone. Oh, my God. Are you all right? Oh, hi, man. I'm sorry I'm not from Queens. Watch it. Look out, look out, look out. Wow, this is tremendous. Very nice. That was the ride of a lifetime.
One of our main tactics for getting to 100 is go extreme. What does your idea look like on steroids? If you have a magnifying glass, how do you turn that into a telescope or a microscope? How do you take your idea as far as it can go? For us, going extreme often means make it big. What happens when you have 100, like with Cocomentos? What happens when you have 250,000, like we had with sticky notes? The idea becomes something different when you introduce scale, when you go extreme. So a pothole is annoying. The Grand Canyon, a national landmark. Quantity changes quality. If you go extreme, you can often break away from the pack and find something new. So don't be afraid to be extreme. Don't be afraid to make it big. Don't dismiss it just because it might take more time or more money. It seemed absolutely absurd for Fritz and me to spend 6 months and probably $1,000 blowing up hundreds of soda bottles in the woods of Maine just for YouTube video. But that was the best time or money we ever spent. Going extreme changed everything. Here's a look at something that's just beginning to explore the possibilities of going extreme.
And 2, 1.
That was insane. That's totally right.
In the now. Fairtrade, you have this moment. In the now.
That was 32. Imagine 300 or 3,000. Now that would take a lot of time folding paper airplanes and a lot of time picking them back up and reloading them. But it might be worth it. It might be something unforgettable. And taking it to 100 this way applies across the board. It's not just for artists or crazy internet video people. If you look at the leaders in almost every industry, you can see the same principles at work. Apple, Cirque du Soleil, Facebook, each of them have taken a simple idea, an experiment one, and taken it all the way to 100. And when you look at all sorts of creative people and companies, you'll see them taking it to 100. And with this approach, you can do that too. Whether it's your work on COVID-19 technology or an art or a theater piece, whatever you do, this process can really help you blow it up into something amazing.
So remember, there are no geniuses. There are only people. People like us and people like you who can just get down to business step by step using a process like this to create something, to make something that is uniquely yours and truly unforgettable. As Thomas Edison once said, if we did the things we are really capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves.
Thank you.
Have a great time.